Hey y'all, it's your girl Pound Cake, and today I'm doing my wrap up on Roatan Honduras. Y'all saw the vlogs, so you know what's coming. And if you haven't, and you want to see how my trip went, and my do's and don'ts, and my tips and tricks, go ahead and keep watching. Alright y'all, so it's long awaited, my my Roatan Honduras wrap up, of course. For those of you who are new here, I normally, whenever I visit a new country, I always do a wrap up, like a do's and don'ts, tips and tricks, as well as my thoughts on the location and my experience after I return. And it's usually like the next video after like the last vlog. However, I had some vlog content that I didn't, I want to put out ahead of time. So now I'm going ahead and recording my wrap up video. So I went to Roatan, Honduras, and it's a small island in Honduras, which is like nowhere near the mainland. If you're familiar with like Dr. Sebi, things like that, then you would be familiar with Honduras. They have a lot of great things, but unfortunately they have a lot of things that are not so great as well. And yeah. Now, of course, it's like a wrap up of my trip as well, and not just the do's and don'ts and the yings and the yangs. But as you all know, when I went to Honduras, there was a tropical storm. So my trip was, of course, postponed for a day, delayed as well, just so that things can clear up, because of course it's a small runway for the airport, very small airport, honestly. So they wanted to make sure that it was dry enough for planes to land. So they did cancel my flight, and I lost about a day and a half of travel. Now, you don't need any special visas or any type of like shots or anything like that prior to arrival. You do have to fill out a declaration, but it's literally a few questions and you get a QR code. You do it upon entry as well as exit. You will fill that out, but it's super simple, non-invasive. It's not anything too crazy where it's a bunch of questions. Literally, they want to know like your name, passport information, where you'll be staying while you're there, how long you're there, who you're with, how many bags you get, the usual declaration, requirements. So that's what that was. Like I said, it was very simple. It didn't take much of anything. Now, like I said before, that Roatan's a small island, so when I went through customs, once I got there, it was maybe about a 20-minute wait max, and then I was able to get through. They stamp your passport upon entry as well as exit. So if you're like a stamp junkie like myself, it's wonderful, right? Because not a lot of countries do entry and exit stamp, so I love that for me, and I'm glad that we were able to go ahead and get that taken care of. And they do provide that. Now, once I arrived, I had already scheduled transport with the hotel resort that I was staying at, or my lodging, so that was perfect. When I went there, he had a sign with the accommodation's name on it, which I was told to look out for, and did, and super simple, super smooth. Now, where I stayed was called TRANQUILSEAS, Eco and Dive Lodge. And mind you guys, I don't have anything written down, just off the dome of the straight off the head. But yeah, so it's an Eco and Dive Lodge, and I didn't know that Roatan is really big. People like to dive there because their diving is amazing. Like the coral reef is awesome. So a lot of people who like to dive and do all that good stuff, they come to Roatan. But the hotel was maybe like 35 minutes from the airport. It wasn't that long. It felt like longer just because of I was overwhelmed with the travel, just upset because I missed a day and a half. Not to mention I actually had work that day, so I was anxious to get to the resort so that I can connect to the Wi-Fi and log on to work. So yeah, but where I stayed at the TRANQUILSEAS was really amazing. Now, I told you all that there was a delay due to weather, and they actually offered for me to extend my trip. They were like, we'll accommodate you for that additional time that you lost. Of course, I had no charge, but we can't issue a refund, which I understand, because once I was there, I saw that it was just myself and one other lady who was there. Everyone else had canceled due to the storm. They were like, no. So no one was there, but they were still fully staffed. So I understand, like, I wasn't gonna be, you know, tripping them or giving them a hard time about getting my money back, because again, it wasn't their fault, nor was it mine. But I understand, you know, it's a business. They have to continue to run their business, you know? So I was like, it's okay. I appreciate the gesture, right? Because most places might have not even offered for you to, of course, you know, extend your stay or even accommodate you due to, you know, weather. So I appreciated that. Now, the accommodations I paid, so I was gonna be there 5 nights and my total was like $577. Now, I stayed in Sandy Bay, and as I mentioned before, Roatan is a really small island. So there's like Sandy Bay, Flowers Bay, East End, West Bay, and maybe another place. But they're all like pretty much close in proximity. Like you can get to and from pretty quickly. Like, so I was staying in Sandy Bay. And that's of course where like the divers are, and it's fine. I actually really enjoyed the location. It was very beautiful. I'll go ahead and link my playlist as well. I'll go ahead and link the playlist on whichever side that it goes on, of the Honduras experience, so you can see my room, the hotel, things like that. It was very beautiful. They do like private rooms, like private villas, and they name them to like different things. And mine was named Tortuga, I believe, was the name of my villa, and it was really nice. Like everything was state of the art, up to date, very clean, very new. And they have this body wash, y'all. First of all, I poured my body wash out of my container and put that in. That shit smells so freaking good. Like, oh my God. But like I said, everything was state of the art, up to date, very nice. I thoroughly enjoyed it. They were very attentive as well. Now, mine came with free breakfast, and the breakfast was delicious as well. Like, I mean, gourmet, as you can see. Again, I'll link those videos as well. They had really great options when it came to food as well. Now, it didn't come with lunch and dinner, which is fine. I would still like go out and eat, or I would still eat there at their restaurant. It's called the Sunken Fish, and they had really great reviews as well. I'm like, they must have like a Michelin star chef in here, because what the hell, like, amazing. So the resort, 10 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a great location because that's where I stayed, so I can vouch for that. And of course, the details for there will be in the description bar. Now, as far as like Roatan, I would say it's a beautiful place to visit, but as a solo traveler, I don't recommend you, as a woman, let's just say that. I'm not sure how the men's, you know, perspective is, or how like their experience is, but as a woman, it is not a place for you to solo travel. And the reason why I say that is because, as you all know, if you saw, the men are very aggressive, and they kind of like, how can I say that without crossing the line? But pretty much I was violated while I was there. I was assaulted sexually while I was in Roatan. Now, that does not apply to everyone in Roatan, like all the men or all the drivers that drive water taxis or do tours. Just be mindful. I definitely recommend 3 or more people. I mean, 2, yeah, but I recommend 3 or more people, just because you want to make sure that, like, you know, like you guys are protected and you have each other's back. Like, solo traveling, no. Woman, if you're a woman and you want to solo travel to Honduras, don't do it. Do not do it. Go with a tribe. You know what I mean? Like, go with some friends, some family, whoever you decide you want to go with. Just don't go by yourself, because it's just not one of those places. And I told you guys, I'm not no little girl. Like, literally, I'm damn near 6 feet, high 200s. Like, you know what I mean? And normally when I go travel, I never have issues. And I've been places, you guys know I've been some places, but I never have any issues where like, ugh. But anywho, yeah, it's not solo girl travel friendly. And I'll kind of just elaborate a little bit on what happened. I already kind of touched on it in one of the videos. I think it was my second video I had on Honduras. I was on the beach in West Bay, and there was a lot of times to get to and from like different sides of the beach, you take a water taxi. So I took a water taxi there, had a good time. The guy was really nice. We were doing donuts. It was a good experience. I had fun. So I get to where I'm going. I go have me a couple drinks. I take me a little Chianti, and I'm chilling. I'm waiting for my man to call so that I can, you know, take his call. That way thereafter, I can, you know, put my phone down and go in the water because I don't want to go in the water and then if I miss his call. Anyway, don't worry about the ghetto shit. But anyway, so while I'm waiting there, this gentleman comes up to me and he's just like, hey, beautiful, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. Again, West Bay is a lot of like resorts and hotels are along the shore. So there's a lot of like people who provide services like excursions, if you want to do like anything in the water, like marine activities, dry land activities, whatever you want. Everyone's hustling, right? Everyone's trying to, you know, get tourists. Now it was really slow, like I mentioned before, because a lot of people canceled due to the weather. So anyway, so he's like, hey, beautiful. I'm like, what's up? And he was just like, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. And mind you, there's not any open-ended responses. I'm not saying like, and you, or like nothing inviting. And he's just like, oh, you're here by yourself? And I'm just like, well, yeah, what's going on? And he's just like, oh, I have a water taxi, but I also do excursions and tours and yada, yada, yada. Now, mind you, of course, I'm a tourist, so I'm like, oh yeah, actually I want to. And the guy looks like, well, he looked black. He's Honduran, but he looked like a black guy. And he was like, oh, I'm like, oh yeah, but you know, again, I want to put the dollars back into us, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh yeah, no, for sure. So we exchanged WhatsApps, you know, under the premise that like, he's gonna be my tour guide and we're gonna go do a couple of like excursions because I'm like, that's what I wanna do. So we exchanged WhatsApps. I'm thinking that's the end of it. So I'm chilling, waiting for my man to call. And mind you, he never calls and not that he never calls, but when you're international, your service isn't always that great. So he was saying that he had called me, but I wasn't getting the calls until I would get back to my hotel, which is strange. But anyway, so he never calls, and the gentleman was like, well, actually I have time right now because it's slow, so I can go ahead and give you a water tour of the island, show you on the other side of the mountain, you know, free of charge, just to see if you like it. If you do, then, you know, we can do more tours. I'm like, no, I'm okay. And I'm like, no, I'm cool. And after like 3 requests, like 3 asks, I'm like, okay, fine, I guess, like, let's do it, you know? And again, I'm just like, here we go. And I don't know why nothing told me to be like, girl, he'll take no for an answer. Like, why would you get on this boat with this man, you know? So anyway, I was like, whatever. Against my own better judgment, I get on the boat and he does the tour. It was a really nice tour. It was super thorough. Like, he did his big one. Like, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'm in good hands because if he can explain and do this and that, like, I'm in good hands. Well, after we do a little tour, we're supposed to be heading back to the shore where I was initially at. And I noticed we're kind of heading away from the shore into like the middle of the ocean, like in this body of water, like this little pocket. And there's like a shore there, but it's like literally giving me the K. Like literally just 2 rocks, a shore, and some water. And he's like, oh, we're gonna get out and go swimming right here. I'm like, I'm not gonna go swimming over here. And he was like, yeah, nigga, I'm not getting off this boat. Like, take me back to where I'm at. And so, mind you, I went to school for psychology, right? Social behavioral science as well. Like, and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna trigger this man, but I already could tell where this is gonna hit. So I'm like sitting here like, why are we over here? Like, what's going on? And he was like, oh, we can go swimming, we can hang out. I want to get to talk to you. I'm just like, no. Like, we can do that on the way back where we were at. Like, we don't have to come here and be isolated as opposed to, you know what I'm saying, being where we were initially with these other people. Like, come on now, stop it. So I'm on the front of the boat and he's like in the back steering the boat. So we're like nowhere near each other, but we can still communicate because it's just us on the boat. There's no one else. So he turns the like motor off because it's like a speedboat. He turns off the motor and then he walks towards where I'm at. And I'm just like, what are you doing, sir? So anyway, he comes to me, touches my legs and my feet. I'm like, you have beautiful feet and like sexy legs. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Doesn't mean you can touch them. What are you doing? You know? And I'm just like, okay, so he's trying it. So I kind of push him off on that, but I didn't do it to like in an aggressive, initially I didn't do it to be aggressive. I was just like, you know what, I prefer you not. Like, don't do that. And so he's like, wow. He's like, I think you're so beautiful. And I'm like, well, I appreciate it, but doesn't mean you can put your hands on me and like try to, you know, do things like that's not okay. So he kept like progressively doing more things. Like he like tried to kiss me and I was like, no, we're not doing that. And then he like caught me off guard and like kissed my boob, but like with his tongue, like you kiss it and then drag your tongue up. And y'all, the saliva, the aromas from the saliva, bruh. I was like, oh no. I was so offended. I'm like, you're pushing it. And I'm just like, why are we here? Why are you doing all this? And so after he like kissed my boob, I like pushed it back. Like, what are you doing? You know? And I'm just like, he kept apologizing. And I'm like, well, you're not sorry if you're going to continually progress and try to see how if you can get further and further. Like, that's not, like, you're not sorry. And so he kept saying to me like, I don't want you to feel bad. And I'm like, I don't feel bad, but I want you to like stop trying to invade my space. Like, stop coming over here where I'm at. Like, I don't want nothing to do with you. Like, what are you doing? So he stood up and he's like standing in front of me, smiling at me. And so I'm just looking at him like, why are you standing here? And mind you, he wasn't a small guy. Like, when I say small, he was still thin, but he was probably like 6'3". Like, you know, like when I say he wasn't small, he wasn't small. So I'm sitting down, he's like standing here, and I'm just looking at him like, what are you trying to do? And again, I'm like not being like super agitated, but I'm just like, okay. And he's like, you don't want me to touch you? And I was like, I prefer that you not. Like, I didn't say it was okay to touch me. I didn't warrant you touching me. Like, I don't appreciate that. Like, I told you I had a whole boyfriend. Like, what are you doing? And so he gets upset and he gets frustrated. He's just like, okay, fine. Like, I'll stop. I'm like, okay, well, good. So I told you I had pushed him off me once he kissed my breast. Irritated me. So then I'm just like, bro, like, can we go now? I don't want to be here. Like, I want to go back to where I was at. So he's not really like, he's kind of like disregarding my request. Like, yeah, okay, girl, you know? So I'm just like, okay, here we go. So then I just kind of get firm with him and I'm like, this is not okay with me. Like, I don't want to have to fight you out here. You know what I'm saying? Like, please refrain from doing what it is that you're doing. Like, can we just please go back to where we were going? And he gets an attitude. He's like, fine. And so what he does, he's like, well, let me get this anchor out of the water. And I'm just like, okay. So mind you, I have my eye on him. And so he's like, it's on the other side of you. Is that okay? I'm like, go ahead. So I'm leaning back this way while he's going that way to allegedly grab the anchor. So I'm watching his hand and mouth because, again, I told you last time he tried to put his mouth on me and that saliva is motherfucking deadly. So I had kept an eye on his hand and his face because you better not put them lips on me because you'll be fish food playing with me, you know? So I'm watching him as he's leaning over this way. He puts his hand in the water. I'm watching it and that face, like, don't do it. But with his other hand, it was available. I'm looking like this. He takes these two fingers and puts them on my bikini bottoms and like tickles my clitoris. And so I just clocked his ass, like, boom. I was like, what the fuck? He's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, you keep apologizing and you keep moving further and further. So at this point, I stand up, right? And I stand up and I'm like, yo, I'm enough. Like, start this fucking boat before I have to go there by myself and have somebody come pick you up out the water because we're not gonna both be on this boat on our way back. Like, you got me fucked up, right? So he's like, okay, I'm sorry. He's like grabbing his jaw. And I'm just like, bro, what the fuck? Like, I'm being nice because I'm just like, I don't want to, you know, offend this or make this man upset and he throw me in the water, you know, anything. I'm just like, I want to just get back to the shore and go from there. So after I stood up, enough was enough. I'm like, okay, we're finna go to battle. We finna start squabbing. Cause what are we doing here? You know? So he gets back, turns on the engine. Y'all, he's doing 100 back to the fucking shore. I mean, flying that motherfucking boat. I'm over here slipping and sliding like, oh my God. So anyway, we get back to the shore. I get off the boat. He puts a ladder out so I can get off the boat. As I'm stepping off the boat with a ladder, I smack his ass. I'm like, pow. And so everybody was looking like, what the fuck going on? Yeah. Don't play with me. And I would have said something, but I was just like, I'm not from here. I don't want no problems. Like, I'm not sure how they do investigations. Like, I'm not going to be held hostage here. I need to get away from here. Like, I don't want to be stuck here. Now, mind you, I was like, of course, violated, and I was like offended by me being violated. But I went back about my evening. I went back to where I was at, got in the water, had a good time. Y'all, he comes over to where I'm at, and I'm just like, what do you want? Like, what? And he's pretty much saying like apologizing and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, bro, enough is enough. And I'm just like, we're not doing that. Like, yeah, okay, have a nice day. Like, go about your fucking day. Like, don't bother me, away from me with that shit, you know? So that was that. And that's probably like the worst part of the trip. Outside of that, everything else was fine. That was probably like the only thing that offended me. And then of course, the men there are really aggressive and they kind of say what's on their mind. They don't really like use any like type of discretion or anything when they speak. Like, they'll say, like, well, I want to fuck you. Like, oh my God, I want to suck at your titties. Oh my God. You look at your lips. Like, just stuff like that, like real vulgar. I'm just like, ew, gross. And that's too much. But anyway, aside from that, that goes back into me saying, don't go by yourself. Go. And not saying that won't happen if it's more than one of you all, but your chances are less likely if it's not just you, you know? So yeah. Now, outside of that, before that situation happened, I had met a gentleman outside and we exchanged information as well. And he ended up being my tour guide, aside from the other guy, because again, I'm not doing nowhere with you. Like, that's it. He ended up being my tour guide. Did the chocolate factory, the rum factory, went to Flowers Bay. We went to the MAYAN EDEN. We just did here and there. The tours are pretty reasonable. It's like $65. And it's cool. I do feel like these are things that you can kind of do on your own. You're pretty much paying for a ride because he doesn't even explain anything to you, literally. So I paid him $65. I went to the rum factory. Someone's doing the rum factory tour. Walked through there, that's done. I went to the rum factory, same thing. At the rum factory, there's someone that's like explaining things. You can taste things, taste rum cake. You can do all that, go outside, that's that. And then at the MAYAN EDEN, which is like a zoo, like an animal sanctuary, there's someone that walks, so he does nothing but drive you to and from, and everything is fairly close that it shouldn't even cost $65, you know? And that's one of those things, sorry y'all, like that's one of those things where yeah, it's like you kind of use discretion. Like you can pay with them, you can pay for it and, you know, be safe. And they don't have Uber in Roatan, so you kind of have to find someone that, you know, has someone that can recommend to you or etc. But they don't do that. So honestly, you really don't need a tour guide for those things. You can honestly just, if you can find transportation, just get dropped off. Have someone just wait. Get dropped off, have them wait for you. Get dropped off, have them wait for you. Because all that stuff is very quick, literally. The longest was the MAYAN EDEN because you're seeing different animals and stuff like that. But aside from that, the rum tour, the chocolate factory, that was fairly fast, maybe 10-15 minutes each. So it's not a necessity to have a tour guide for that kind of stuff. Just a pro tip. But if you want, you can. I mean, you guys talk during the ride, but it's not anything like pertaining to the tour. You know what I mean? You can just have conversations. So I personally don't feel like you need one, but if you feel like you want one and you want to pay for one or maybe go through someone else, you can. Now I want to do the Mango Cove or the Mango Grove, which is like this little tour through the mango trees and stuff like that, but because of the storm, it was closed. So take with that, do with that what you will. Now, outside of that, that's kind of really it. I was there for a while, but then of course, like my last day and a half, it was pouring down raining. So it did kind of like limit the activities that I chose to do. But aside from that, I enjoy myself. Of course, you know, I don't return anywhere. So it's a one and done for me. But I mean, I had an okay time. I actually had a good time. I'll say that I had a really good time aside from that incident. Other than that, I had a really good time on my trip. And yeah, what I recommended, I say go see for yourself. There isn't a lot to do there, again, because it's a small island. There's other things that you can do, of course, as well. But based off what I did and what I was allotted to do due to the weather and just the time, you know, I did what I could. But like I said, I say go ahead and give it a try. Again, not by yourself. I can't speak for men traveling alone. That's your business. I'm sure no man's going to violate you, so you should be good. But I don't want to, you know, leave you out either. So, but us women, do not do it. Other than that, that's really all I have for Roatan. Outside of that, I don't really have much. Of course, everything I've done, the hotel that I stayed in, etc., will be in the description box below. Yeah, so until the next time, I'm currently, and then y'all know where I'm at. You can see the background. You know I'm back in Chicago right now, so I'm currently in Chicago. But once I come back from, at the end of the month, I'll be at home until my birthday, and then we'll be headed to Zanzibar, y'all. So yeah, it's going down. Yeah, so I appreciate you all, of course, per usual. If it's your first time here, as I mentioned before, we want to welcome you. If it's not, we want to welcome you back. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.